Hello everyone and welcome to Sci-Fi Zone, where we celebrate science fiction movies and TV shows from the past, the present and the future. We're coming to you from the wonderful store of alternate worlds, and with me today I've got Claire and a blow-in. I've got this random dude who's just popped up out of nowhere. Now, you might have guessed that this is not MPS, and there's actually a good reason for that. If you're wondering where MPS happens to be at the moment, well, you might remember a couple of episodes ago, he was unboxing this merman figure from inside the store. He enjoyed that so much, he decided to go back and open up a few more boxes. The problem is, it's going to take him 6 weeks to get through them all. So in the interim, we had to bring in H, who's responsible for our fantastic opening sequence of the show. How you going, H? Don't bother answering that question. We'll talk to you later on. It's all very, very good stuff. You might recall we were going to discuss Batman's 30th anniversary. Well, that was an MPS topic. He was really keen as mustard to cover that off. So we're just going to hold that over until he returns in about a month's time. So what that means is we're going to talk about something completely different. And what good thing to start with than with Star Wars. Oh, it's very exciting stuff. There's a new TV series coming out, 2 in fact, but there's one that we're going to be discussing, The Mandalorian. How excited are you guys about The Mandalorian?
I mean, Jon Favreau's involved. Gives us a leg up to start with anyway. I mean, as a director, he's done extremely well. Disney obviously loves him because they keep on getting him to do their live action remakes. So here we are with The Mandalorian. Screenshots look good. I would like to see a bit more detail, but they're being a bit cagey. We'll have to wait and see.
So if you're wondering what The Mandalorian happens to be, it's a bit of backstory there. We originally had, you know how you had Rogue One and Solo. They were going to do a Boba Fett movie, but then they realised, hey, making a TV series about Mandalorians is the way to go, because Boba Fett's not a Mandalorian. He comes from Camino. If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll know that. And so the show is actually live action TV series, the first one for Star Wars. How cool is that? And it's actually set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, with this Mandalorian dude who's running around somewhere in the New Republic, and he's like a gunslinger. Make of that what you will. He's a gunslinger. That's how they've described it.
Yeah, I saw that. That was quite interesting. I also heard that the first few episodes were written by the guy just as a fan.
Oh, really?
I heard that. I don't know whether it's true or not, but that's one of the rumours that's going around, that he wrote the first few episodes and then got picked up by Disney to write the rest.
Wow, how good is that? Well, the key thing is it's actually filming at the moment, and it's due for release in November, which is very exciting. Word on the street is that it'll be released with Disney Plus's streaming service, and not every country is going to be getting it in November. So apparently some countries in the world getting Disney Plus next year. So how are you going to see The Mandalorian if you can't see The Mandalorian? How's that going to be?
You might get the deal the same as we've seen with Discovery. Discovery CBS All Access in the US, but Netflix in countries where CBS All Access wasn't there was able to actually screen it there. So, I mean, we've got all these streaming channels. It'll depend which one will come to which country. So it'll be interesting to see if you get that competition though, where say, we haven't got Disney Plus in this country, one of the other ones can actually pick it up and screen it, but we're talking Disney, bit of a behemoth.
It could be the, like we used to do in the old days with Star Trek, the Next Generation episodes, put a video camera in front of the TV and just record that and send the tape over to another country, but let's not worry about that, shall we? So the key thing is that the whole idea of The Mandalorian, as we said, it's the first live-action series from Lucasfilm. They were going to do a live-action series like nearly 10 years ago, but they found it was too expensive, so they're doing this one now. Everybody loves Mandalorians, or most Star Wars fans do, whether it's Boba Fett or anybody else. For that reason, I think that at least every Star Wars fan in the world will at least watch the pilot episode, so that alone will be a massive success. As to what happens after that is pretty much anybody's guess, but good on them for doing it.
It's already been renewed for season 2.
Oh, it hasn't even been released yet.
They just announced that I think Disney executives looked at it and went, oh, yep, fine, tick.
You know why? Because Star Wars fans love their Mandalorians.
But I think $100 million was spent on season 1. That was their budget.
That's the reason why the original show didn't go ahead. It was too expensive.
Interesting. They're going to say too expensive back then, but 100 million now.
It might be interesting, the reaction when people find out that it's not Boba Fett.
Oh, yeah.
Because I kind of assumed that it would be.
Yeah. Well, Boba Fett's still rotting in the Sarlacc, in case you're wondering, so there you go.
Well, he carries on. I mean, they carried on in the novels with Boba Fett. He actually went, I mean, nearly 35, 40 years on from Return of the Jedi in the novels. It'd be nice, I know Disney has scrubbed the whole expanded universe in inverted commas, but there's some elements of the Mandalorians they introduced in the books that I'd really like to see in the TV series. One of those is the Beskar armor. Oh. There was this particular mineral and it's lightsaber resistant, so the Mandalorians actually had armor that could resist a lightsaber.
Wow.
And it worked as a visual thing from the books, and I was like, oh yeah, please stick that in the TV
cool.
series, you know.
As a Star Wars fan, I'm like, can you see the salivation just coming out there? Absolutely fantastic. So it's very, very exciting stuff. Anyway, so look forward to The Mandalorian coming out in about a few months' time. So how good is that? Also, quietly, just on the QT, they're making another TV series called Cassian, based on Cassian Andor from Rogue One, which is actually, of course, set before Rogue One, with the same actor, Diego Luna, who's actually playing Cassian. And I personally reckon that'll be the one worth watching for, because the Imperial Empire will still exist, the Emperor still exists, Darth Vader will still be around. How good is that? But we don't know much more information about it at this stage. So as we, as Star Wars fans, sit and just chill out and go, take a breath, get ready for some Mandalorian action. We will be back right after these messages.
Alternate Worlds has been specialising in comics and collectibles for over 40 years, with a back issue collection of over 500,000 comics covering the Golden Age right through to latest releases, including signed and slabbed gems. They also have an enormous graphic novel collection, one of the largest ranges of manga in the country, as well as toys, statues and pops, and new items are arriving every Wednesday. Each month, Alternate Worlds hosts its own premium comic day, where all the rare treasures are put on display for inspection and purchase. The store also runs regular tournaments and competitions for both comic and gaming fans. And for local and interstate and international buyers, the Alternate Worlds website features their complete range of products, so whether you come in online or in store, visit them soon.
And welcome back. Since we're not talking about Batman, we might as well talk about something which is extremely similar to Batman. The Martian. How good. What can I say? Well, you never know. You're lucky in the big city. I know Claire is as keen as mustard to talk about Martians, dudes who run around on Mars. So, Claire, talk about some dudes who run around on Mars.
We're talking about one dude running around on Mars. The Martian came out a couple of years ago, and I really, really loved this movie. It's one of those science fiction movies that the general populace don't really think is science fiction. It's not a huge distance into the future.
Well, you know why, don't you? There's no aliens on it. Where are the Martian
well, that's
dudes
a good
to blow him up and kill him?
But there are plenty of things out there that have no aliens in it that are still very much science fiction.
Yep.
Altered Carbon, for example, which we talked about.
True.
Anyway, it's not the far distant future, it's the near future, and everything that happens in it is something that we can see ourselves as being able to do. Like, we have the technology sort of there, and it's just building on that. But it's also Matt Damon, and you know,
who seems to need rescuing very frequently.
So interestingly, I read a little article that said all the rescues that he's had to go through on screen would have cost us $900 billion.
Oh, you could do that with a finger. You could do that. $900 billion. So I need FPS for this.
Not million, billion.
Actually, if
$1 billion.
they could have actually filmed The Martian on Mars.
That's probably true. That's probably true. I really like this movie because it's quite... The science is good too. That's the other thing I really like about it. There's one thing in the beginning of the movie that's a little bit iffy, but apart from that, the science is good. It stands up, it holds up, it works. And they show Matt Damon actually going through, well, Mark Watney, I should say, going through pretty rough times. He looks pretty terrible by the end of the movie because he's been on his own for quite a while and you know, on rations for over a year, I think, in the end. But he grows his own food, he figures out all the problems, he, as he says, sciences the shit out of it.
Yes.
That's the line.
That's the line.
Yeah, so I rewatched it just recently and I just love it. I still love it. I think it's a great movie.
I've got to do a rewatch with Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
Ah.
There was 1963.
Yep.
It literally, that one literally is Robinson Crusoe translated to Mars.
Right, okay.
So it was interesting that you can look at some of the parallels.
Yep.
You know, the astronaut that gets stranded. But yeah, The Martian, the science was so well done.
Yeah.
And actually thinking things through.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've come up with, could you actually make Martian soil fertile with human feces?
Yep. I think it'd be...
Maybe not, but they actually think there's stuff in there that may work against Earth-based organisms.
Yeah,
But I mean,
that wouldn't
we've got to get
surprise
to the
me.
point where they've got to do a sample retrieval for us to deal with stuff here.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're dealing with just stuff from the probes that we haven't got all the information we
Yeah.
need. But it's
Yeah.
still, as you say, the science, they've tried to be as accurate as they can,
Yeah.
which for these sort of movies is a good thing.
Yeah, and it's rarer than you would
Is
think.
that because you think NASA was involved in helping to make this show rather than the directors or the writers
Yeah.
just inventing this stuff as they went along? Do you reckon that had something to do with it?
Probably. The book, when it was written, was quite thoroughly researched as well. I know that. The guy who wrote it was talking to astronauts and getting a feel for what it would actually be like. And it was an award-winning book. It was a great book. One of the comments that was going around about the book was that there was too much science in it. That was actually what made me read it, because I'm like, well, hang on, how bad can it be? And it's not. Like, it's not a difficult book to read. But the fact that it's based on something that had the science right, I think that helps the movie a lot. But as you say, NASA were involved, and I think having that good advice, and I think it's important to try and get it as right as we can.
So what would happen if at the end of the story he doesn't get rescued and he gets left on Mars? Do you reckon that would have still been as successful picture? Because everything up to that point would have still been exactly the same, except maybe they say we can't rescue you, the other ship that's gone back to Earth has left him behind, and he just stays there and the movie just finishes with him on his own. Do you reckon that would have changed the way audiences viewed it? Or
Well, I
not?
don't think that would ever have gotten made, and I think that's because it would change the way audiences view it.
You get the odd filmmaker who'll take a risk and not give people the ending they want.
Yeah, but it's
And
rare.
it's rare, but sometimes I agree with you. It would have been interesting if you get that sort of bummer of an ending, but it's
not-
more accurate, in a way. I mean,
Yeah,
Europa-
actually, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it would be more accurate that they can't go back and get him. I think the Hollywood ending that they had in the movie, I mean, it worked and it was good, it's entertaining, everybody was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. But I think in real life, it'd be like, yeah, sorry, dude, you're on your own.
There were so many things that could go wrong, and there was a lot of it that we didn't see. Like that, the whole trip of Hermes all the way back to Earth is just completely skipped over, and there were a million things that could have gone wrong even at that point. So yes, it realistically, he is much less likely to get rescued than expected. But it's Matt Damon. Of course, they're going to rescue him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you do, and it is good for people to walk out of the cinema at the end and go, you know what, it was great. I love the ending and the story and everything, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
But in real life, it makes you wonder if that would be the case. Or
Well,
not,
I
but
think
still.
I think that one of the reasons that they did it the way they did is because, well, I don't know really about their motivations, but I think it encourages science. I think
Yeah.
it encourages people to get involved in science, to get excited about science, to start careers and all that sort of stuff. I mean, the number of people who claim Star Trek, for example, started their career in various scientific endeavours.
And perhaps we haven't had something lately that's triggered that same enthusiasm
It's not
in
so
people.
inspiring. Yeah,
it's not as
yeah.
inspiring. So,
I
yes,
I think it came at a really good time. And putting in that iconic line, I don't know, that just totally works. I think.
just one thing: why are filmmakers obsessed with Mars? I mean, how many Mars films have we had to this point? Robinson Crusoe on Mars, Rocket Ship XM, Mission to Mars, Red Planet.
Yeah. Everybody loves the Mars.
Everybody loves
it's-
Mars.
And what about when the Martians come here, the War of the Worlds and all the rest of it? So you can't trust...
New series next year,
Yeah.
BBC.
Total
Oh.
Recall was another one. Off to Mars. What
yeah.
can I say? Everybody
I'll
loves their
tell you
Mars.
why. It's because it's there, and it's because we can see it.
Yeah.
You can see that it's different from Earth because of the colour. Like, just even before we got all the technology that we have now to get close to it, you could see that it was different. You could see that it was big enough. You could see that there was something going on.
Do you think it's maybe where they thought they could see canals originally? Because of the
Hugely.
changing
Oh, yeah,
marks on Mars,
absolutely.
the astronomers sort of said, look,
Absolutely.
there's canals, and everybody sort of goes,
There must
there
be
must be
people.
Martians.
Yeah, there must be some kind of people up there.
And then you get to Ray Bradbury in the Martian Chronicles
Yeah.
with them actually using those canals.
Yeah.
So it's always, we're back to, as we said earlier, it's something that fires the imagination, not just in terms of
Absolutely.
science, but in
Yeah.
terms of what if.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, that's what all good science fiction is about. It's that what if, what if we could get there? What if we could do this? What would that be like?
Well, if you want a good example of Mars being depicted accurately, there was a great TV commercial many years ago advertising a printing company. And one of the Mars rovers is
Yes.
taking photographs of the landscape, and of course it's the barren landscape, right? And and then you get the shot on Mars, and what happens, you've got this entire Martian civilization, and what they're doing is they're printing out landscapes of barren wasteland, and they're holding it up in front of the camera, and as the camera is moving around, they're quickly trying to print out another landscape picture to put in front of the camera, and it's actually a very, very, very funny commercial.
It's pretty clever, that one.
So that's what the Marsers are really like.
It's really it's really sort of sunk into the imagination. I mean, there's an ad out at the moment about hay fever, how to escape hay fever, go to Mars.
There you go.
It's just become so ingrained in us, I think. I love that.
If you want to take it a line from Total Recall, get your ass to Mars. Yeah, there you go. I can't do the impersonation as good as MPS, but you get the picture. All right, I think that'll do it for today. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell for all the latest updates and exciting information that's coming along. Next week, we'll actually be having a quick chat about the Dune movie before we discuss about why there are no iconic lines and quotes from 21st century science fiction movies. So may the force be with you, and make sure you stay in the zone. Okay, bye for now.